Good morning. Would everyone please stand?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Coming to say the prayer for us is our chaplain, one of our chaplains, Tyson Donaldson.
If everyone bow their heads with me, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we are so grateful for each of these men and women who decided to dedicate their lives to serving others. We are grateful that you have given them the will and the strength to do such a physically and emotionally demanding job. Today we ask you to protect them physically and mentally as they enter into their careers. We ask that you give them strength, endurance, wisdom, and courage when they are called to help others. Lord, please help them keep their focus on serving those that depend on them and caring for every citizen they come in contact with. Lord, please be with the families and the friends of all of them as they get adjusted to this unique lifestyle. Help them to be there for them after a long shift and a bad call. Lord, guide the crews on each of their trucks to help grow them into the best firefighters they can be. Thank you. It's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. Welcome and a hearty thank you for coming to our graduation ceremony for the class 2201 of Murfreesboro Fire Rescue Department. We also want to welcome our neighboring departments that have students in the class from Gallatin Fire Department and Nolensville Fire Department. The bond between fire departments in our Middle Tennessee region is very, very strong, and we always work together to try to do everything, and this training class is just another example of that. Before we go any further, I want to recognize some of our training staff, because without them, we just could not put on this class, and I think several of them are here today on our direct training staff. Assistant Chief, first and foremost, Assistant Chief Brian Lowe. Chief Lowe was instrumental in us starting our first recruit class just a couple of years ago, the first time we had ever encountered doing a 10-week recruit class in-house, and those programs have just grown both in size as well as in quality with the programs that we're delivering for the recruits as we're doing that. Training coordinator Nicole Miller, who is also in our training division, and our shift training coordinators, and we're going to recognize in just a few minutes all of the training officers that had involvement with the class as it's moving forward. I also want to recognize our Deputy Chief, Roger Toombs, our other command staff members, Assistant Chief Mark McCluskey over Operations Division, Assistant Chief Carl Pease over our Community Risk Reduction Division, and Assistant Chief Jeff Wright over our Medical Services Division. All of our divisions work together to make sure that these classes go off and our recruits are trained well, and they have all the things that they need, all the tools that they need to be able to do a great job when they come on to shift. But this training is just the beginning. This is a lifelong process, and I told the recruits just a few minutes ago when I was talking to them, I've been in this occupation almost 33 years, and I still attend classes consistently all the time because it's very, very important to stay abreast of everything going on and all the new things that are happening, but it's also important to advance that education. So we talked to them yesterday and told them this is only the beginning. This is your recruit training, and it's probably the most intense thing that you're going to go through as far as the amount of curriculum that you're going to have thrown at you at one time. But it's just the beginning, and we have to continue training and moving on forward with that. But again, thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. We're very, very proud of our department, and we're very proud of the two departments that we have in this training class with us. But most importantly, we're here to recognize, and we're very proud of our new recruits that graduated from this class or are graduating from this class today, and all that they're going to achieve over their entire careers. So congratulations to you all, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Chief. Give me a second. I'm an in-betweener. I'm in between denial and acceptance that I need glasses. If you will, let's recognize the instructors again. I'm just going to, I'll probably echo some of the Chief's sentiments on our instructors, but I like to put their names on the board here, just if they led a class for us in that lead role. Now, granted, we're a department made up of about 239, and I would say about 100 firefighters, drivers, captains participate in this recruit class throughout the 10 weeks. The names are not necessarily in order of appearance, but they're just in order of rank. Assistant Chief Carl Pease, a.k.a. is our fire marshal. He teaches most of our community risk and our fire alarm response. Chandria Womack, she's standing over there. She's also helping with the presentations today. They help a lot with the recruit class. Battalion Chief Mike Keith, I think he's present today. Thank you, Mike, for all that you do for us. He was once a critical member of my instruction team, and he moved on to Battalion Chief and left me high and dry. But I think we've plugged his spot. Captain Sloan, he's another one of our instructors. He's here with us today. Captain Terry Smith, I think all the recruits are glad to be moving on. Captain Tracy Summer, Captain Paul Oliver, Captain Jeremy McCullough, Captain Adam Brown, and our engineers that filled in were Zach Fleener, Nathan Jones, Tim Rowlett, and firefighters Ryan St. Peter, Brett McBee, and Jeff Playstead. And we had some guest instructors this time, and like Chief said, we like to help our neighboring departments, and in doing so, we're able to call on them for resources. So we had Blake Hahn, an engineer from Gallatin Fire, and Captain Adam Weingard from Nolensville Fire. Thank you, gentlemen, for helping out. Community partners. The Murfreesboro Professional Firefighters Local 3035, under the leadership of Josh Oliver, they really stepped up. Well, they've stepped up this whole year, not just for the recruit class, but for the department. Many things that we realize that we need throughout the process that we didn't budget for. Sometimes we just say, well, we'll just do without. We can make do. You can imagine when we're doing a recruit class, we're going to burn some stuff, right? So if we can't burn, if we can simulate smoke, fog, using fog machines, we're going to do it. I'd say annually we spend about $1,000 on fog solution, not just for recruit class, but for the department. The local 3035, they took that cost off the citizens of Murfreesboro and just took that on and have provided all of our fog solution. Thank you to local 3035. Middle Tennessee Electric delivered a class for us. Consolidated Utility District gave us a hydrant class, and I told these guys those hydrants are the same in Gallatin and Nolensville are here in Murfreesboro. So Clark Iron and Metal gives us stuff to cut up. Radford Towing provides us cars to cut up. Laverne Fire, another department that we've helped out in the past who reciprocated resources this time with extrication. I called Laverne and asked them, do you have a place for us to cut cars, extricate? They said, don't worry about it, we'll take care of all of it. They had the junkyard ready, all the resources that we needed, restrooms, food, snacks. He really just went over the top taking care of us in Laverne. And last but not least, the Tennessee Fire and Codes Academy. We spend the weekend with them, which I guess these recruits enjoyed getting away from our facility and getting down there where they can pretty much hide from Captain Smith. So, at this time, I would like to call up class president, Kendrick Davis. Now, I think you're going to hear the term first time a lot today from me, but this is the first time we've had our class president was also the valedictorian, which he's just now learning. And he's also going to give the class address, which I told him as president, you can delegate that. So, but he refused. He took one for the team, but we're going to have to work on delegating responsibilities, but he's got plenty of time to do that. So as class valedictorian, we also have a challenge coin. Now, all firefighters, all Murfreesboro firefighters, when they've been here a year, they will receive a challenge coin, but as valedictorian, he gets his up front. So, Kendrick. Don't use my notes.
Okay. Typically, I try to avoid speaking in public as much as possible, but like Chief Lowe said, I did decide to take this role. I figured in spirit of the last few months, it'd be good to get out of your comfort zone a little bit and learn a little bit from that. So, the reason I'm up here is really just to give thanks to everybody who made this class possible. But just for a second, I got to brag on our guys. This has been an honor to be a part of this class. This has been an absolute joy. For those of you who are here, who are getting any of these people who are going to be on your shifts, this is a class full of leaders. This is a class full of people who work hard, and really care about this job. It's kind of funny, day one you come in and you hear about how you're going to make lifelong friendships and you're going to know all these people for the next 30 years. And it's kind of an odd thing because you don't know anybody, it's strangers, but that's exactly what's happened. And I just can't wait to see what this career has in store for everyone here. So first group of people I want to thank is really you all. It's the families, it's the people who dealt with early mornings and late nights and taking care of kids and household responsibilities and pets and everything. That's just incredible, so that we could pursue what our dreams and our passions were in this line of work. So as Chief Lowe mentioned before, the training staff from day one through the hiring process, through getting started in the academy, being there every day with us. We've always had everything we've needed. We've had every question that we've asked has been answered, and just thank you all for that. And like we said, there's a whole list of people that maybe the training aspect isn't even necessarily in their job description, but you invested your time. You came out to the training ground. You answered our phone calls, emails, everything like that. That is highly appreciated, and that is not in vain. We really, really appreciate that as a class. And really just kind of the last thing I want to say, we were at our live burn last weekend, and a conversation just naturally broke out just about how appreciative we are to be a part of this department. From everything, from the training to the equipment that we have, to the culture that we have, to the history that we have. And just so you all know, we know that that's something that some of you have been working on for decades, and that's something that you've built. And thank you for that. And we have every intention as a class of continuing that going for the next 20, 30 years, however long we're going to be at this department and serve this city. So thank you all very much, and let's get after it. So, thank you. Good job, Kendrick.
I don't recall extemporaneous speaking being a part of the class. That's pretty good. Okay, before we turn this over to our keynote, there's just a few things as far as being the assistant chief over training. This is really my last day that the recruits that I will be reviewing their time cards that they're actually report to me. I'll be turning them over to Chief McCluskey here on the third row. I'd like to issue a challenge, or not necessarily a challenge, but I'm just going to talk about some things that, you know, when you say out of your comfort zone. I've done this several times, and each time I like to let the recruit class determine what I'm going to say up here. I've got several speeches, but I've always cataloged them and said, no, I'm not going to use that. I think this group, they've worked hard on their own. I'm going to find something that's for them. So if you could pull my slide up. Why are you here? So years ago, or for as long as I could remember, the first day of recruit class, the instructors would call you up or call you out, sing you up, make you stand up and tell the class why you were here. Sometimes people just stood up and give a common answer just so they could sit down really quick. Well, we have, could you back up a slide, please? Yes, we got software. Now we can integrate this into the class where I let the students use their smartphones, and just giving them a code, they can answer questions on their phone. That way, one, I get an answer out of everybody, and two, I can really see what they're thinking. But this software, it really reacts off of frequency. So it uses keywords, and the words that it seeks out, or that appear the most, show up in the center and the largest. So when I ask them what captured your interest in the fire service, you can see in the middle there the words that came up: working to help people, teamwork, camaraderie. And you know, as I was reviewing this, obviously you probably can read on there, there's some stuff I had to walk out of my office and find somebody 20 years my junior to translate for me. But that's I've had a lot of fun with this class as far as that generational gap, and the classes before them. They don't get my Smokey and the Bandit references, and they don't. And you know, when I was working on this class or this presentation, a John Fogerty song was on. You know, Put Me in Coach, and I thought, oh, how appropriate. And I thought, you guys can Google that when you get out. But you can see their hearts are in the right place. So the "Why Are You Here" slide. Thank you. All right, let's park right here for a little bit. You can see on here, once again, the keywords that I was looking for. The largest in the center there. Well, work hard. I think they was trying to impress somebody, but help people. Help people. That's what we're here for, right? And I told you earlier, you're going to hear the word first time a lot. And that's just when I saw this, and I thought, the median age of this group is really young. Now, I can't ask them how old they are, but I can tell if I have to go to them and say, hey, I need you to upgrade your driver's license to an adult, I think the group's pretty young. There's a first time for everything. And this is to you guys. Your first fire, your first medical call, your first night with your first crew, your first turn to cook. Pink in the middle of the steak's okay. Pink in the middle of chicken is not. Your first duck rescue. Your first cat rescue. Be careful with the cats and trees. They turn into tigers. I think we can justify a workman's comp division based off of our cat injuries this year. Your first time to initiate patient care. When that happens, your crew has set some trust in you. Your first time to be first in. That's different than your first fire. First time that the incident commander comes to you and asks you if the fire's out. The fire's not out unless the fire department says it's out. I wish I could tell you that each time you roll out, you're rolling out to a victory. In reality, we're going to walk through some valleys.
Your job may be to put your arm around somebody. I'm sorry. Your job may be to put your arm around somebody who's just lost a family member. But sadness and empathy are natural reactions. Don't be afraid of them. Your peer team is sitting right beside you. Your peer team is hovered in the hallways in the back. Your peer team is your crew. Your peer team is your chiefs. And if you don't know it already, the hardest day was the first day. Leaving something to come do this, to sign up for 10 weeks, well, we'll just say about 3 or 4 months of training to not really know if you got what it takes. And then to get here to understand, yeah, you can do this. But we are all excited for you. And if you ever are sitting back there at that station, wondering why you're here, just remember the words you put up there. But I will reuse something that I've used before, and this is something my dad told me when I told him I was going into the fire service. He said, that's a good job. He said, I just do what's expected of you, plus a little bit more, you'll be okay. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to our keynote. But before I read his introduction, I just want to say I'm always on the lookout. I'm always on the lookout for people who I think are civic community leaders who could stand up here and address the recruit class, who I think would bring something to the table. And Mr. P, really, the only way I know him is from where I've heard him. I've actually been in awards banquets where he's received awards, and I've heard him speak. I've heard him speak at ground openings, and I reached out to him, and I said, hey, would you be willing to do this for us here at Murfreesboro Fire? And he said, absolutely. But Mr. Joey P, he's a Chief Executive Officer of Murfreesboro Medical Clinic, a position that he has held since 2003. Prior to 2003, he served at the clinic's Chief Financial Officer for more than 4 years. And Joey graduated with honors from Middle Tennessee State University with a bachelor's degree in accounting. He passed the Uniform CPA exam in 1988. He spent his first 10 years of his career at KPMG, an international public accounting firm, and he left in 1998 as a senior manager. And Joey currently serves as chairman of the Kittrell Volunteer Fire Department. And I will say this about Kittrell: someone does have a secret recipe for country ham out there. I appreciate the invite. They do good out there. He also is a member of the Jones College Business Dean's Advisory Council, the MTSU Accounting Advisory Board, the Endowment Committee of Special Kids, and the Murfreesboro Advisory Board for a Live Hospice. He is an elder and clerk of session at Cripple Creek Presbyterian Church. And Joey is also a graduate of the Leadership Rutherford Program, a member of the Tennessee Society of Certified Public Accountants, a member of the Medical Group Management Association, a certified medical practice executive by the American College of Medical Practice Executives. And previously, Joey has served in a leadership role for the American Heart Association, March of Dimes, and the Heart of Tennessee chapter of American Red Cross. In 2014, Joey was recognized by the Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce as Business Person of the Year. Joey and his wife Charlotte have 4 children, and they reside in Reedyville, Tennessee. Thank you, Mr. P. If you would like to come up.
Good morning. Welcome, and Assistant Chief Lowe, thank you for that warm introduction. I kind of started looking around to make sure I knew I was in the right place, and thinking, oh my gosh, they've got some accountant here to speak to us, and what's he going to have to say? But I was truly honored when Assistant Chief Lowe called me and asked if I would be willing to do this. And honored because the role of the Murfreesboro Fire and Rescue Department in our community has such prominence. And let me be the first to welcome these young men and women to the force. I will admit to you, it's not a very exciting time when I get back to the office from lunch or something, and I look in our parking lot and there's a fire truck with their lights on. My stomach kind of sinks a little bit, and it's like, oh my gosh, what's happened? But I would also say, while I don't really want to see you guys, I'm glad to see you guys when I need you. Yesterday, just for an example, before 9:15, we had 2 codes at our clinic. And those codes necessitate a lot of times calling for patient transport to the hospital. And we're a medical facility, we've got doctors there, but the role that the fire and rescue personnel as well as the EMTs on an ambulance provide some amazing help and assistance to my staff and my physicians as we're trying to take care of those patients. And having 2 of those yesterday morning is just, again, a reminder of how important a job that you guys have in taking care of our community. As Assistant Chief Lowe mentioned, I've been involved with the Kittrell Volunteer Fire Department for a little over 25 years. I tell every one of my staff when they start with MMC that I'm one of the weirdos that actually grew up here. I grew up out in the Halls Hill community, and I remember as a child when a neighbor's house burned, and we might as well broke out the hot dogs and the marshmallows because there was nothing that we could do. The rural areas didn't have fire service. And so I was so appreciative of my dad and my father-in-law almost 30 years ago banding together to start a volunteer fire department out in the Kittrell area. And I made the mistake of being out of town for a meeting, and the next thing I know, I was elected treasurer. That's what you make the CPA do, right, is handle the books and the finances. And so I got the opportunity to start serving my community as a member of the fire department. And to see these young faces here and think about these grizzled old men and women that started that fire department years ago, because that's what the community needed. That's what their neighbors needed. That's what they needed. To where when somebody was in trouble, that's what neighbors do for each other, is we come help. And also tell every new employee that comes to MMC that it's important to me that we take care of patients. Because as a lifelong resident, the patients that we're taking care of are my friends and my family and my neighbors. When you're responding to calls, that's who you may end up seeing at that call. It might be you recognize that address a little too much. Several years ago, right after I started at MMC, it was election night. The clinic's chief operating officer was talking to the then chief. So this would have been about 1998, 1999. She was talking to the assistant chief, one of the ranking officers with the Murfreesboro Fire Department at that time, at the Vine Street Fire Hall while she was voting. And while she was standing there was a dispatch call for a fire alarm going off at Murfreesboro Medical Clinic. Now that's where the new police station is now, on Highland. And she just looked at the chief, and he's looking at her with his eyes wide open. She just said, "I'll follow you." Fortunately, she got there, and we had a visiting doctor that was filling in for somebody that night violate one of Judy's rules, which was no microwave popcorn except in the kitchen. They were doing that in one of the departments. They let it burn, and the smoke from that set off the clinic's fire alarm system. And I relay this story other than she fired the guy right there on the spot, But y'all don't know what you're getting into when you get on that truck and you respond to a call. It may be getting the cat out of the tree. It may be nothing. You know, I think of, again, the first code we had yesterday, we had probably between my medical staff, the 6 or 7 firefighters that were on the truck, as well as the EMTs, all in one exam room. It looked like a clown car when everybody started coming out. But then we got the stretcher in and we got the patient taken care of. Fortunately, it wasn't that serious, but the patient still needed to go to the hospital. But when you show up and it's a bad wreck, a bad accident, a bad fire, I've heard so many stories from the firefighters at Kittrell of the effect that some of the scenes have had on them. As I look around the room and I see these young families with children in their laps, and I don't think there could be anything worse than having to provide medical treatment, emergency medical treatment to one of these young children at an auto accident. But that may be what you're faced with. When I was in high school, I lived on Halls Hill Pike. And if y'all are familiar with that road, it's kind of treacherous. I think all my brothers and sisters and I had at least one auto accident on it. But over a 3-week period, every Thursday night, there was an auto accident on that road. And my coming home from work was a little, it timed to where the first night, the ambulance passed me. The second night, the second Thursday, the ambulance passed me. The third night, and this was the worst one, and for me to be able to relay this to you, let's just say 38 years later, 39 years later, because of the images burned in my mind, was I was the second person on the scene by after some other bystander just happened to be driving by. And this time, a young girl had rolled her car, and it had caught fire off the side of the road, but left the roadway, overturned, and caught fire. When I got out of my truck and over to see what I could do to assist, I walked upon this young girl's body. She's still alive, and the first person there had pulled her from the car, but she was badly burned. Probably 60 to 70% of her clothing were burned from her body. And she had a child in the car. Miraculously, the child was not in a car seat. It saved the child's life. The other guy had found the young infant in some bushes, uninjured, but it had been thrown from the car. Mom was not as fortunate. When the ambulance got there, they did not have a tool that would cut the burnt coat off of this young lady. And they had to use my pocket knife. And I remember that vivid image to just remind you guys, as Assistant Chief folks said, these will affect you. The empathy that you have to do what you do, to serve this community for things that when there's danger, you're going to rush into that danger. Where most other people, their reaction is to get away. Or now, unfortunately, to pick out their cell phone and start filming it or something. But I'm so grateful as a member of this community for these young people willing to accept that mantle, to be willing to say, here I am, coach, put me in. I'm ready to play. It's not play, it's an amazing career of service to this community that y'all are undertaking. As a member of this community, I'm thankful for y'all's commitment to do that. And it is truly a commitment of learning, the strength and endurance that they have to show to be able to pass the classes, the physical training they have to do, the intelligence to understand the science of extinguishing a fire, You've got to be able to keep yourself safe, to keep each other safe, have each other's back, to watch for each other. And again, never forget you're serving the community. There's a little more modern movie. Y'all may have seen this one. I think it's one of the last of the famous Christmas movie, best Christmas movie of all time, Die Hard, where John McClane is sent to protect this young computer geek, and he keeps saving him, let's just say that. And he's like, how do you do this? How did you know you could do this? And he said, you never know you can do this until you're presented. And that's when you know that you're that guy. You'll get that opportunity when you least expect it, because again, you won't know what the call is going to be like when you show up. But when you get there, remember the people you're serving and do your best. Also remember all these people in the room that care for you, that have supported you, that are here to support you today, because it's important that you get home to them every night too. I pray for your safety. I pray for the continued growth and excellence of this community, this department. But again, don't forget the service. I had a mentor several years ago, and I didn't understand it when he told me, but we have been blessed. All of us have been blessed by our community. And you can say, well, Joey, I don't know that I have anything that I've really been blessed. We've all been blessed in some certain way. And we should then turn around and bless our community. It's easy for me to say that, okay, as a business, we can turn around and bless our community. It's blessed us, gives us business. But a few years later, I took a Bible study course through my church. And Genesis 12, God says to Abraham, I'm going to bless you. He doesn't stop there. Just say, I'm going to bless you, right? Abraham was God's chosen. He continues and says, so that you can be a blessing. Then it hit me about why this mentor had told us we need to turn around and bless this community that has so richly blessed us. I did not see the biblical reference. I did not know it. But now I see that. And knowing that by doing what you're doing, you're being a blessing to this community. To take care of people when you arrive on the scene. To protect life, to protect property, to do everything you can to the best of your ability to serve this community. Thank you for being willing to do that. Thank you for the commitment that you've had. I would add one other thing. Y'all are joining a well-respected department. This department is well run. It does cooperate with the county departments, the volunteers. I kind of chuckle a few years ago when the city had to actually call in for some mutual aid from the county department. It was a dry time of year, and there were several brush fires going around the city limits, and they were getting out of control with high winds, and they didn't have enough brush apparatus. So they're having to call in Kittrell and Las Casas and some of these other departments that have available brush trucks to come in and help do that. So you're joining a well-run, well-respected organization. Don't ever take that respect for granted. Also understand that every time you put on that uniform, that you're a representative of that organization. And please conduct yourself appropriately, because you're a representative of the Murfreesboro Fire and Rescue Department when you do that. And again, as someone that appreciates the service that y'all provide, when you come to my place of business or I see you on a fire scene, it's wonderful to see how the staff conducts themselves with such honor and dignity. So don't ever take that for granted, and remember what you're representing when you put on that uniform. Thank you for your time this morning, and again, thank you for all that you do or going to do for the Murfreesboro Fire and Rescue Department.
it's time to present some badges, I do believe. Nicole, if you want to make your way up. And while she's making her way up, and I knew I'd forget this because if I didn't have a slide on it, we have some unsung heroes also for the class. Tessa Resco, administrative assistant. If not for her, we wouldn't have any space to conduct classes. I think we'd been out in tents. She makes all the calls, does all the scheduling. She put the presentation together, the pamphlets, programs. Tessa did all that. Like I said, she's an unsung hero. She likes to stay in the background. Risha Watson, she's in attendance today. She holds the purse strings for us. Nobody likes surprises, especially when it's money in local government. But Risha always made sure we had what we needed for the class. Terry Heron, I'm not sure if she's here today, but Terry's our logistics manager. If we had a hole in the gloves of our gear, she was on top of it, got the gear changed out. And obviously we got Nicole here. I think I heard her refer to herself as the team mom the other day. But yeah, she shepherds us where we need to go, and if it weren't for her, the state wouldn't be ready for us to take tests or anything. Nobody would be expecting us, and we'd all just be doing this all for naught. So I think she barks and she bites. So if the recruits would tell you that. But I'm going to let her come forth. She's going to call names. Part of being a good host is we let our guests go first. Gallatin, if our 4 Gallatin recruits will go ahead and ready on the side of our chandelier, we'll get you set up. Go ahead. You can bring the person with you that's going to be pinning you.
Russell Hopkins. I should have said firefighter Russell Hopkins. Firefighter Philip Lazio. Firefighter Tyler Saunders. Firefighter Cameron Sykes. Nolensville, will you proceed to the staging area? Firefighter Andre Vieira. Firefighter Alex Weiner. This will start our Murfreesboro firefighters. Firefighter Gavino Alberto. Firefighter Peyton Ashburn. Firefighter Daniel Carter. Firefighter Kendrick Davis. Firefighter Kylie Middleton. Firefighter Sophia Patton. Firefighter Grayson Rigsby. Firefighter Daniel Scholes. Firefighter Bo Smith. Firefighter Shane Tom. Firefighter Joshua Walker. Firefighter Aaron Worthens.
Okay, class 2101, please rise. You'll notice we have a bell in the auditorium here on the table with all the ropes around. The ropes were the sashes that they carried with them through all recruit school. Now, I usually have a really cool story about the bell, and I brought one with me, but I don't about this one because the honor guard beat me in the room. But usually our bells that we have here are mounted on the bases they're mounted on. These bells served the city on a frontline piece of equipment for many years. And today that bell will toll 18 times, one for each recruit. Now the history of the bell and the fire service I don't know, as far as I've researched, it's dated back to early Anglo-French settlements where fire watchers would walk through the villages ringing bells at night to tell you to put the fires out. Bells have been used to signal all clear after a fire. Bells have been used to signal the start of shift. Bells have been used to signal the end of shift. We even use bells in the fire service to honor those who we have lost. Today, our honor guard captain, Chad Davis, will toll the bell 18 times for our recruits. Visitors and guests, Chief folks, I present to you Class 22, Alt 1. They are fit for duty. Thank you to our Murfreesboro Honor Guard for putting that on. That's two-time national champ Honor Guard. That's quality. So. That concludes our ceremony. So you may collect your firefighter out in the foyer. So there are some picture ops. We have some flags and banners. Don't hesitate to get in front of them, take a picture. So thank you all for coming.